My sister looked me straight in the face at my parents' kitchen table and said, "You have been living off Mom and Dad for years, and now you want my husband to build you a little pity house too." Then she looked at my daughter. Maybe people are right about who Sophie's father really is. The room went so quiet I could hear the ice maker drop in the refrigerator. My father pushed his chair back. My mother covered her mouth, and Travis, my sister's husband, stood by the back door with drywall dust on his jeans and a look on his face that did not match the shock everyone else was wearing. He looked almost pleased. That was the first time I understood the rumor was not just gossip, it was a weapon. My name is Claire. I was 32, a single mother, and still living in my old bedroom in my parents' house outside Columbus, Ohio. My daughter Sophie was 9, and every morning I got her ready for school before driving to my job at a small title office where I made $42,000 a year, preparing closing packets and pretending I was not exhausted. To everyone in my family, I was the broke daughter who had made one bad choice and never quite recovered. They did not know what was still in my name. I got pregnant at 22 by a man named Evan, who talked like he wanted a family until the first ultrasound made everything real. He promised he would help, then changed his number, left his apartment, and disappeared so completely that even his cousin told me to stop calling. My parents took me in without a speech. My mother, Carol, cried in the bathroom that first night, and my father, Martin, pretended not to hear. They were disappointed, yes, but they never made Sophie pay for my mistake. My sister Lauren did not either, at least not then. Back then, Lauren brought me tea when I was sick, sat beside me at the hospital when Sophie was born, and held my hand when Evan's name was left blank on the birth certificate. She bought Sophie shoes when I could not afford them, and once drove 40 minutes in the rain because Sophie had a fever and I was stuck at work. That is why what happened later hurt in a place anger could not reach. For 9 years, I shared one room with my daughter. We had 2 twin beds, one old dresser, and plastic bins under both beds because there was nowhere else to put our lives. I paid my parents $600 a month, plus groceries, gas, Sophie's clothes, and the after-school program. Still, people see what they want to see. In our neighborhood, a woman living with her parents after having a child alone becomes a story other people think they have the right to edit. I heard the comments, "Poor Claire. Good thing her parents are saints." I swallowed all of it because I wanted peace more than applause. Then my parents offered me the small house. It happened on a Thursday night after dinner. Sophie had gone upstairs to finish a science project, and my father asked me to stay at the table. My mother had that nervous smile she used when she had planned something kind, but was afraid I would be embarrassed by it. "What would you think about having your own place?" she asked. I laughed because I thought she was trying to soften a blow. "Are you kicking me out?" She reached across the table and grabbed my hand. "No, honey. Never. Your father and I have been talking. That old detached garage at the back of the lot is useless. We could tear it down and build a small cottage there. 2 bedrooms, a kitchenette, a bathroom, a little living room. It would be yours and Sophie's." I could not answer at first. For years, my biggest fantasy had not been a vacation or a new car. It had been a front door I could close without feeling like I was borrowing someone else's life. My father slid a folder toward me. He had already talked to the city about an accessory dwelling permit. The first estimate was $78,500 if we kept the footprint simple and reused part of the existing utility line. A separate contractor had quoted $112,000, which made my mother wince. My father said Travis could probably do it for less because he had his own crew and knew our property. Travis owned a small remodeling company called Mason Ridge Renovations. It sounded more impressive than it was. He had 2 employees, 1 work van, a leased pickup, and a habit of talking about future commercial jobs like they were already signed. My father had helped him years earlier with a $35,000 loan when his first truck broke down. Travis never let anyone forget how hard he worked, but he forgot how many people had helped him stand. I still cried when my parents told me about the cottage. Not loud, not dramatic, Just the kind of crying that comes when somebody opens a door inside a life you thought had run out of doors. The next Sunday, Lauren and Travis came over with their 2 boys. My father brought up the project over lunch, and Travis leaned back in his chair like a man being invited to save the family. "I can do it," he said, tapping his fingers beside his plate. "But if Claire wants it done cheap, she cannot be picky. No fancy floors, no custom cabinets, no princess stuff. This is a backyard unit, not a lake house." Everyone laughed a little except me. I smiled because that was easier than being difficult. Lauren nudged him and told him not to be a jerk. Then she looked at me with real softness and said, "You and Sophie deserve your own space. I mean that." For a few weeks, I believed we were all on the same side. The first days of demolition felt like a miracle. Travis tore down the old garage, his crew poured the slab, and Sophie stood at the kitchen window every afternoon watching the frame go up. She picked the smaller bedroom because it faced the maple tree. I bought a $19 notebook from Target and wrote down little plans. White curtains, a used couch, a coffee maker that would finally be mine. On Saturdays, I helped when I could. I carried lumber, swept dust, brought water bottles out to the guys, and picked up sandwiches from a deli 2 blocks away. I did not do it because Travis asked. I did it because I wanted to feel like I had earned a piece of every wall. Then Mrs. Holloway from 2 houses down started looking at me differently. She was the kind of neighbor who knew everyone's trash pickup schedule and acted like surveillance was community service. One afternoon, while I unloaded groceries, she crossed her lawn and said, "That brother-in-law of yours sure spends a lot of time back there." I thought she was complaining about noise. "They should be done with framing soon." She tilted her head. "That is not what I meant." Something in her voice made my stomach tighten. I shut the trunk and asked her what she was talking about. She smiled in that ugly, polite way people use when they are about to be cruel and want credit for concern. "Nothing, honey. People just wonder why a married man is building a whole house for his wife's sister, especially when the little girl looks nothing like the man who ran off." I felt heat crawl up my neck. "Do not talk about my daughter." She lifted both hands. "I am only saying what people are already saying." That was the second warning. The first one had been Travis's invoice. 3 days earlier, he had handed my father a revised material sheet with a $14,800 increase for lumber, electrical rough-in, and plumbing adjustments. My father looked troubled but not suspicious. Prices had gone up everywhere, and Travis spoke fast when numbers came up. He said if we delayed, the permit could expire, and restarting would cost another $3,200. I worked in a title office. I was not a contractor, but I knew what pressure paperwork sounded like. I asked him to email me the supplier receipts. Travis stared at me like I had asked to search his pockets. "Receipts?" he said. "Just for the file," I answered. He laughed once, dry and small. "Claire, this is family. Do you want a house or a courtroom?" My mother said he was probably offended. My father said we could sort it out later. But that night, I searched the supplier names on the invoice and found one store had closed 7 months earlier. I did not accuse him. Not yet. Silence is not weakness when you are collecting facts. The rumor reached my mother before I could decide what to do about the invoice. She came to my room while Sophie was at a friend's house and sat on the edge of my bed like she had bad medical news. "Claire," she said, "there is talk going around." I already knew from her face. "About me and Travis." Her eyes filled. Mrs. Holloway said people are saying Sophie might be his. For a second, I could not move. Then I laughed, not because it was funny, but because the alternative was throwing something. "Mom, Sophie was born 2 years before Lauren even met Travis." "I know that," she said too quickly. "Do you?" She looked away. That hurt more than the neighbor. A stranger can repeat poison and remain a stranger. Your mother hesitating over poison gives it a place to sit. I reminded her about Evan, the birth certificate, the hospital. The nights she had rocked Sophie while I cried. She said she remembered. Then she said something that changed the room. People are also saying Travis is doing the cottage for free because he feels responsible. I stood up. He is not doing it for free. Dad is paying him. I know. Then why are you saying it like you are asking me a question? She did not answer. That was when I realized gossip had done what facts could not undo. It had made my own mother look at me like I was a woman with a secret. I went to Lauren the next day because I still believed honesty could protect us. She was in her driveway unloading groceries when I pulled up. Her boys were throwing a basketball against the garage door, and Travis's pickup was gone. I told her everything before I lost my nerve. Mrs. Holloway, the comments, my mother's face, the rumor about Sophie. At first, Lauren laughed. Not a happy laugh, but a sharp, insulted one. That is disgusting. People need jobs. She hugged me beside the grocery bags and said, I know you. You would never do that to me. I held on to those words longer than I should have. Because by the following Sunday, she was not laughing anymore. She came to my parents' house with red eyes and a tight mouth. Travis followed her inside carrying a toolbox, though no one had asked him to work that day. During lunch, she barely spoke to me. When Sophie asked to sleep over next weekend, Lauren said, "We will see," in a voice that made Sophie look down at her plate. After dessert, I found Travis in the backyard measuring the framed hallway. I asked him if Lauren had said anything to him about the rumor. He kept his eyes on the tape measure. She asked if there was anything I needed to tell her. And? He looked up slowly. I told her the truth. Which is that nothing happened. The way he said it was technically correct, and somehow still wrong. I told him he needed to make that very clear because Sophie was being dragged into it. He wiped his hands on his jeans and stepped closer. You know what is crazy? He said. The more they talk, the more I wonder why they see it. I frowned. See what? He gave a little smile that made me cold. Us. I told him not to say that again. He raised both hands like I was overreacting, but his eyes stayed on my face too long. The next morning there was another invoice on my father's desk. A change order for $22,600. Travis claimed the old utility line was cracked, and the city would require a full replacement from the main house to the cottage. My father was upset. My mother was near tears. Lauren texted me only one sentence. I hope this little house is worth what it is doing to my marriage. Not what the rumor was doing. What the house was doing. That was when the project stopped feeling like a gift and started feeling like a trap. I called the city permit office during lunch. The inspector, Renee, pulled up the file and told me the utility line had passed. No replacement had been ordered. There was no city note, no required correction, and no pending fee. Are you sure? I asked. She sounded annoyed, but not at me. Approved as installed. Whoever told you otherwise needs to show you a notice from this office. I thanked her, hung up, and sat in my car with my lunch untouched on my lap. Then my phone buzzed. It was Travis. Do not make this harder than it has to be. I had not told anyone I called the city. For the first time, I was not just embarrassed or angry. I was scared. That evening, I asked my father not to pay the change order until we saw the written city notice. He looked confused, then defensive, because proud fathers do not like realizing they may have been fooled in their own kitchen. Travis came in 20 minutes later, like he had been summoned by the walls. He had drywall dust on his shirt, and that contractor swagger men get when they think tools make them smarter than everybody else. I hear we have a problem, he said. I said there was no problem. We just needed documentation before paying another $22,600. He looked at my father, not me. Martin, are you really going to let Claire manage this now? She answers phones for a living. My father stiffened. I felt the insult land. but I kept my voice flat. I process title files for a living, which means I read documents before money changes hands. Travis smiled. This is why people do not help you, Claire. You do not know how to be grateful. There it was, the sentence he had been waiting to say. My mother whispered his name, but Lauren had just walked in through the side door and heard enough to choose a side. She did not ask what he meant. She looked at me like I was the one holding the knife. Maybe he is tired, she said, of being treated like the bad guy while he is building you a house you could never afford yourself. I looked at my sister and waited for the woman who had held my hand in the hospital to come back. She did not. Instead, she said, "People are talking because you gave them something to talk about." That was the third warning. It was also the first betrayal. After that, everything moved faster. Lauren stopped letting Sophie sleep over. My mother went quiet whenever Travis's name came up. My father still believed the project could be finished if everyone calmed down. He thought every fire could be handled with patience. Travis changed strategy. He stopped insulting me in front of my father and started finding moments when I was alone. If I walked to the cottage frame after work, he would appear from behind a stack of drywall. If I brought water bottles, he brushed my hand too slowly. If I stepped back, he smiled like he had just proven something. One Saturday I went out because my father asked me to check the washer hookup. Travis was alone. The crew had left early, and the cottage smelled like sawdust and wet concrete. I should have turned around the second I saw only his truck. He stood in Sophie's unfinished bedroom and said, "Can I ask you something without you acting offended?" "No," I said. "Not if you start like that." He laughed under his breath. "If I was not married to Lauren, would I have a chance with you?" The room seemed to shrink. I told him he was disgusting and needed to leave. He leaned against the bare studs like we were flirting in a bar instead of standing inside my child's half-built bedroom. "Come on," he said. "You cannot tell me you never thought about it." "I have never thought about betraying my sister." His expression changed then. Not hurt, irritated. "You better be careful acting so righteous," he said. "Righteous women do not usually have neighbors wondering who fathered their kid." I walked out before my hands started shaking where he could see them. That night he sent me 6 texts. The first one said he was sorry. The second said he had been confused. The third said I made him feel something he had not felt in years. The fourth said Lauren never understood him. The fifth said he knew I felt it too. The sixth said, "Do not block me unless you want this to get ugly." I screenshotted every message. Then I blocked him. The next day, Lauren came to my parents' house for Sunday dinner and brought the ugliness with her. She waited until Sophie was in the living room with her cousins, then put her phone on the kitchen table and said, "I want a DNA test." My mother gasped. My father said, "Lauren, stop." But she did not stop. She said she deserved proof. Travis deserved proof. And if I had nothing to hide, I would do it. I told her Sophie would not be dragged into adult filth because neighbors had empty lives and her husband had no boundaries. Lauren slapped the table so hard the silverware jumped. "Do not talk about my husband like you are the victim," she said. "You have always known how to make everybody feel sorry for you. Poor Claire. Poor single mom. Poor girl in the little bedroom. Now Dad is spending $96,000 building you a cottage, and somehow you still get to act offended." The number cut through the chaos. "What did you say?" She blinked. "What?" "You said $96,000. My father looked at her. "The contract is $8,500. Lauren's face changed before she could stop it. Travis had told her a different number. For 1 second, the room saw it. Then Travis stepped in from the back hallway, even though none of us had heard him enter. "I told her the realistic cost," he said, "because some people understand that houses do not get built on wishes." My father stood up. "Why are you in my hallway?" Travis ignored him and looked at me. "You really want to do this in front of everyone?" I said nothing. He smiled, because he mistook silence for fear. "Fine," he said. "Tell them why you are suddenly so interested in receipts. Tell them why you keep finding reasons to be alone with me out there. Tell them why you blocked me right after I told you I could not keep pretending nothing was happening." Lauren made a sound like somebody had knocked the air out of her. I pulled out my phone. For the first time that day, Travis stopped smiling. I did not show the texts. Not yet. I looked at Lauren and told her, very quietly, that if she wanted a test to prove Travis was not Sophie's father, she could pay for whatever fantasy gave her comfort. But before she used my daughter as evidence in her marriage, she needed to ask why her husband had sent me messages after I told him to leave me alone. Lauren's eyes moved from me to Travis. He laughed too loudly. "She is setting me up." There it was again. Control dressed as outrage. My father told everyone to leave the kitchen. My mother cried. Sophie appeared at the doorway and asked what was wrong, and I hated every adult in that room for letting my child hear even a piece of it. I took her upstairs and told her grown-ups were arguing about the house. It was not exactly a lie. It was just not enough truth. Later that night, when the house finally went quiet, my father knocked on my door. He looked older than he had that morning. He sat on the end of Sophie's bed because she had fallen asleep in mine. "Claire," he said, "there is something I should have explained before this got messy." I already knew he was talking about the property. Most of the family thought my parents were giving me a cottage out of pity, but that was never the whole truth. 2 years earlier, my grandmother had died and left my father an insurance payout and a tangled piece of land behind our house. The old garage sat partly on that back parcel, and the property had been almost forgotten until the city started approving backyard units. My father had spent months clearing the title through my office. Because I understood the paperwork, and because he wanted Sophie protected, he had transferred the rear parcel to me legally once it was clean. The assessed value was $214,000 before construction. With the permitted cottage completed, Renee from the city had estimated the combined rear parcel and dwelling could appraise near $382,000. That was the secret nobody outside my parents knew. The cottage was not charity. The land under it was mine. My father had also placed $84,000 from my grandmother's insurance payout into a construction escrow controlled by both of us. Travis was supposed to receive draws only after inspections and receipts. That was why he needed signatures. That was why his fake change order mattered. That was why my questions had scared him. He was not just chasing me. He was reaching for the money. My father rubbed his forehead and said, "I think Travis knows more than he should." The next morning, I found out he was right. At work, I pulled the public permit file during my break. I told myself I was only checking dates, but my hands were already cold before the screen loaded. There was a new document attached at 8:12 a.m., filed under Supplementary Ownership Authorization. The title made no sense. Quitclaim and lien consent. I clicked it. The first page said I had authorized a temporary transfer of development rights on the rear parcel to an LLC called Mason Ridge Holdings. The second page listed a construction lien in the amount of $128,400. The third page had my name typed under an electronic signature. Claire. My name. Clean and perfect. Sitting under a document I had never seen. For a few seconds, I just stared while the office printer hummed behind me, and my coworker asked if I was okay. I was not okay, because the document did not say Travis wanted my cottage. It said I had already given it to him. I printed the forged documents 3 times because my hands were shaking so badly I kept thinking the first copy had to be wrong. Then I opened the signature page again. My name sat there like a stranger had borrowed my life. Below it was the notary stamp of Heather Bell, a name I recognized because she was Travis's cousin. She had come to Lauren's baby shower and once told me I was lucky my family did not throw me out when I got pregnant. That was the moment the whole thing stopped being a family mess. It became fraud. I did not call Travis. I did not call Lauren. I did not even call my father at first, because I knew if he heard my voice he would drive straight to Travis's house and blow up the one advantage I had left. Travis still thought I was just the poor single mother who answered phones. So I let him keep thinking it. At lunch, I walked the documents down the hall to Miranda Holt, the attorney who rented 2 offices inside our title agency and handled small real estate disputes. She was 63, sharp as broken glass, and never wasted a sentence. She read the first page, then the second, then stopped at the lien amount. $128,400, she said. For a backyard cottage? The actual contract was $78,500. Her eyes moved to the electronic signature. Did you sign this? No. Did you authorize anyone to sign it? No. Did you know about Mason Ridge Holdings? No. She leaned back in her chair. Then you do not have a construction dispute. You have a forged transfer document, a fraudulent lien, and possibly an attempted theft of real property. Then Miranda asked one question that made everything click. Who benefits if your family believes you are unstable, dishonest, and involved with your brother-in-law? I did not answer. I did not need to. By 3 that afternoon, we had a plan. Miranda told me not to confront anyone. She told me to save every text, invoice, email, permit file, and bank record tied to the escrow. She called the city inspector, Renee, while I sat across from her, and asked for the inspection history, permit notes, and upload log for the forged document. Renee did not sound surprised anymore. She sounded angry. The document had been uploaded from an account linked to Travis's contractor portal at 7:58 that morning. The IP address traced to the small office he rented behind a flooring store. The notary record number on Heather Bell's stamp did not match any notarial entry filed that week. Miranda wrote it all down. Then she looked at me and said, "Now we let him step further into it." I thought I understood pressure before that day. I did not. When I got home, a notice was taped to my parents' front door in a plastic sleeve. Travis had filed a contractor demand for immediate payment of $128,400 and warned that failure to pay within 10 business days could result in foreclosure action against the parcel. My mother was crying in the hallway. My father had the paper in his hand, and his face was red in a way that scared me. Sophie sat on the stairs with her backpack still on, looking from one adult to another like she was trying to calculate which part was her fault. Lauren was in the kitchen. She had come before I got home, probably with Travis, and she was standing by the sink with folded arms and swollen eyes. "You need to fix this," she said. I looked at her. "Me?" "Yes, you. This has gone far enough." I held my purse tighter because the copies inside felt heavier than bricks. "Your husband forged my signature." Her mouth twisted. "He said you would say that." There it was. He had prepared her before I even knew what he had done. My father slammed the notice on the table and said Travis had 5 minutes to get to the house, or he was calling the police. Lauren snapped that if he called the police, she would never forgive him. My mother begged everyone to lower their voices. Sophie disappeared upstairs without a word. That was what Travis had really stolen first. Not land. Peace. He arrived 20 minutes later wearing a clean button-down shirt, not work clothes. That detail bothered me. He had dressed for a performance. He walked into my parents' kitchen with a folder under his arm and did not look at the notice, my father, or me. He looked at Lauren like she was the jury he had already bought. "I am trying to protect my company," he said. "Claire is angry because I would not play her games." He opened his folder and pulled out printed messages, but they were not the ones he had sent me. They were cropped screenshots of my replies before I blocked him. Single lines like, "Do not say that again," and "Leave me alone," cut away from what he had said first. In his version, I looked dramatic, secretive, maybe guilty. Lauren stared at those pages like they were proof from God. Then Travis turned to my father. "Martin, you know I tried to help. I gave you a family discount. I delayed other jobs. I carried this project because Claire needed a place. Now she is accusing me because she is embarrassed about what people know. My father said, "What people know?" Travis lowered his voice. "About her and me." My mother made a choking sound. I felt my anger become very still. I wanted to show Lauren the messages. I wanted to scream that he had cornered me in Sophie's unfinished bedroom, and then used my refusal as revenge. Instead, I thought about Miranda saying, "Let him step further into it." So I said, "What exactly are you accusing me of, Travis?" He looked at me for the first time. His eyes flickered just a little. "I am saying you are not as innocent as you act." "Say it clearly." Lauren whispered my name, but I did not look away from him. Travis smiled with one side of his mouth. "You wanted attention. You got it. Now you are trying to destroy me before your sister finds out how far it went." My father moved toward him, and I stepped between them. Not because Travis deserved protection, because if my father touched him, Travis would use that too. I asked Travis if he was standing by the lien, the transfer authorization, and the $128,400 claim. He said yes. I asked if he was saying I signed it willingly. He said I had known exactly what was happening and was only backing out because I panicked. "Good," I said. The kitchen went quiet. Travis blinked. "Good?" I nodded once. That is all I needed to know. For the first time, he looked unsure. But Lauren mistook my calm for arrogance. She stepped toward me and said, "You think you are smarter than everyone because you work around papers. You are still living in Mom and Dad's house, Claire. You are not some real estate queen." That sentence landed right beside the one from part 1. Poor Claire. Pity house. Answers phones. I let it sit. Then I went upstairs, held Sophie until she stopped pretending she was not crying, and promised her one thing. By Friday, nobody would be allowed to use her name as a weapon again. The next 4 days were the longest of my life. Miranda filed an affidavit of forgery with the county recorder and sent a formal dispute letter to Travis, Heather Bell, and Mason Ridge Holdings. She also notified the bonding company behind Travis's contractor license. His bond was only $25,000, but losing access to it could freeze his bigger jobs. That mattered more than I knew. On Wednesday morning, my coworker showed me a commercial closing package from Hargrove Properties. They were buying a 12-unit apartment building on the east side for $1.46 million and had a renovation contract pending after closing. The contractor listed on the preliminary file was Mason Ridge Renovations. The contract amount was $312,000. I stared at Travis's company name until the words blurred. He had not been desperate over my cottage because it was his biggest job. He had been desperate because he needed my parents' $84,000 escrow to keep his company alive long enough to qualify for the Hargrove contract. If the bond company heard about a fraud claim before that closing, he could lose the job that was supposed to save him. That was why he had rushed the lien. That was why he had used Lauren. That was why he had tried to make me look unstable before I could make him look criminal. The next attack came that night. Lauren posted on Facebook without using my name, but everyone knew. She wrote that betrayal does not always come from strangers. Sometimes it comes from someone you fed, defended, and welcomed into your home. Under it, Mrs. Holloway commented, "Some of us saw this coming." Within an hour, 2 cousins texted my mother. One aunt texted me a prayer emoji and asked if Sophie was okay. Travis had turned my daughter into neighborhood entertainment, and Lauren had handed him the microphone. I almost broke then. Miranda told me to screenshot everything. So I did. On Thursday, the city issued a temporary hold on the permit. Travis's crew could not legally continue work. He responded by parking his truck across my parents' driveway at 6:40 p.m. and refusing to move until my father came outside. This time, I recorded from the upstairs window. Travis shouted loud enough for 3 houses to hear. He said my father had raised a liar, that I had ruined Lauren's marriage, that he would own the cottage before I ever slept one night in it. Mrs. Holloway stood on her porch pretending to water a plant in the dark. Then Travis said the sentence that ended him. "You people should have paid me and kept your mouth shut." My father did not answer. He just looked up at my window because he knew I had it. The next morning, Miranda called Travis's attorney, if you can call a man who does DUIs and cousin divorces his attorney, and offered a meeting at our title agency conference room. Travis was told it would be a chance to resolve payment, lien, and family accusations before the matter escalated. He agreed too fast. Men like Travis love rooms where they think they can perform. He arrived Friday at 10 with Lauren, Heather Bell, and a man named Ron, who introduced himself as his legal counsel. My father came with my mother. I came with Miranda. Renee from the city joined by video call because she had agreed to answer administrative questions about the permit file. Travis looked annoyed when he saw her face on the screen. The second was when Hargrove Properties' general counsel walked in. Travis went pale. His name was Daniel Price, and he had been informed by Miranda that a contractor connected to one of their pending renovation contracts was facing a forged lien dispute involving real property. Because our title agency was handling the Hargrove closing file, the allegation could not be ignored. Travis looked at Ron. Ron looked like he suddenly wanted a different client. Miranda began calmly. She laid out the actual contract first. $78,500 for the cottage, paid in draws from an $84,000 escrow. She showed the approved inspection notes proving there had been no required $22,600 utility replacement. She showed the invoice from a supplier that had closed 7 months earlier. She showed the permit upload log from Travis's contractor account. Travis interrupted 3 times. Each time, Miranda let him. Then she turned to Heather Bell and asked if she had notarized my signature in person. Heather's face went blotchy. She said she could not remember. Miranda slid a copy of the notary entry log across the table. The record number belonged to a vehicle title notarized 2 weeks earlier for someone in Dayton. Heather stopped talking. Lauren's eyes moved from Heather to Travis. I watched the first crack open. Travis said, "This is a family matter." Miranda answered, "No. A family matter is when people argue at Thanksgiving. Forging a property transfer and filing a $128,400 lien against land you do not own is not a family matter." Then Daniel Price asked Travis one question. "Did you disclose this dispute to Hargrove before signing the $312,000 contractor representation?" Travis swallowed. It was not relevant. Daniel closed his folder. It is now. The room changed after that. Not loudly, worse, quietly. Travis had walked in ready to humiliate me again. Now he was watching a commercial contract bleed out on a conference table. But the real reversal had not happened yet. Miranda looked at me and nodded. I took the original deed from my folder and placed it in front of Lauren. My voice shook once, then steadied. "You said I was not a real estate queen. You were right. I am not. But the rear parcel was transferred to me legally 18 months ago. It is assessed at $214,000, and with the cottage completed, the projected appraisal is about $382,000. Dad was not building me a pity house. He was helping me improve property I already owned." Lauren stared at the deed. I looked at Travis. "You did not build me a house. You tried to steal one." Nobody spoke. Then I placed the screenshots beside the deed. His messages, his threat, his line about things getting ugly. Then the video from the driveway played from my phone, his voice filling the room with the words he could not crop. "You people should have paid me and kept your mouths shut." Lauren covered her mouth. Travis lunged for my phone, and my father stood so fast his chair hit the wall. Daniel Price rose too. Ron grabbed Travis by the sleeve and hissed at him to sit down, because even he understood that trying to snatch evidence in front of 2 attorneys and a city official was not a strategy. Miranda did not raise her voice. Mr. Mason, here is what happens next. You will sign a release of the lien today. You will withdraw the fraudulent authorization. You will return $31,600 in unsupported draws already paid, cover $7,800 in corrective work, and pay $4,500 for legal and recording costs. Total restitution, $43,900. If not, we file civil action this afternoon and send the full packet to the county prosecutor, the licensing board, your bond company, and Hargrove. Travis looked at Lauren like she could save him. She did not move. Ron asked for 10 minutes outside. Miranda gave him 5. When Travis stood, he leaned toward me and whispered, "You think you won?" I looked at him, and for once I did not feel small. "No," I said. "I think you finally spoke to someone who reads documents." His face went red. 5 minutes later, he signed the lien release, the withdrawal, the restitution agreement, the consent for the city to remove Mason Ridge from the permit. His hand shook so badly on the last signature that his name looked like it belonged to a man writing during an earthquake. Lauren signed nothing. She just sat there, staring at the table. Afterward, in the parking lot, she followed me to my car. I did not want to talk to her. Not then. Maybe not ever. But she said Sophie's name and I stopped. "I did not know," she whispered. I turned around. "You did not want to know." She flinched like I had slapped her. "He told me you were obsessed with him," she said. "He told me you started the rumor because you wanted people to think he cared about you. He said you were jealous of my life." I looked at my sister, and all the years between us stood there too. Hospital chairs, birthday cakes, borrowed dresses, baby shoes she bought when I had $11 left until payday. "He used what you already believed," I said. Her eyes filled. "I did not believe it at first. But you wanted to believe it more than you wanted to protect Sophie." That was the sentence that broke her. She covered her face and cried in the parking lot, but I did not hug her. Some pain needs space before forgiveness can even find the door. The consequences came fast after that. Hargrove terminated Travis's $312,000 renovation contract before the closing finished. His bond company opened a claim. Heather Bell surrendered her notary commission after Miranda filed a complaint with the state. Travis had to refund the $31,600 within 30 days, and when he missed the first deadline by a week, Miranda filed the civil action anyway. The county prosecutor did not move quickly, because prosecutors rarely move at the speed victims need, but the licensing board moved fast enough to hurt him. Mason Ridge Renovations was suspended pending investigation, and 2 subcontractors who had been waiting on payments filed their own claims totaling $18,700. The neighborhood found out, of course, not because I posted, because people who help spread lies are always shocked when truth travels without asking permission. Mrs. Holloway stopped watering plants whenever I came outside. My mother said she crossed the street one morning to apologize, but I told her I did not want the apology delivered through someone else. If she had been brave enough to repeat the rumor, she could be brave enough to face me. She never was. The cottage sat unfinished for 6 weeks while we found a new contractor. I thought the empty walls would feel like failure, but they started feeling like evidence of survival. Every exposed stud reminded me that Travis had tried to leave his name inside my future and failed. The new contractor was a woman named Dana Brooks. She walked the property with a clipboard, found $2,400 in bad framing, plumbing shortcuts, and electrical work that would not pass final inspection. My father looked sick when she explained it. I put my hand on his arm and told him we were done paying for shame. Dana finished the cottage for $68,200. With the corrective work and fixtures, the full project ended at $104,700. It was more than my parents had first planned, but after Travis's restitution and the escrow balance, my actual new loan was only $18,300. I signed that loan myself. Not because I had to prove anything, but because I wanted one document in that whole mess to carry my signature by choice. Lauren filed for divorce 3 months later. One evening, she came to the finished cottage before I moved in. She stood on the little porch holding a gift bag and looked smaller than I remembered. Inside was a framed photo of me, Lauren, and Sophie from Sophie's first birthday. Lauren said, "I am sorry I let him make me cruel." I told her I heard her. That was all I had. Sophie moved into her maple tree room on a Saturday morning in September. Her walls were pale blue. Her bed was by the window, and she arranged her books on a white shelf Dana had built from leftover lumber. My mother cried while folding towels in the bathroom. My father carried in a used couch and pretended his back did not hurt. That night, after everyone left, Sophie and I ate pizza on paper plates on the living room floor. The cottage still smelled like paint and new wood. Outside, the main house lights glowed through the yard, close enough to feel safe, far enough to let me breathe. Sophie looked around and said, "This is really ours?" I thought about every person who had called it pity, every neighbor who had whispered, every document Travis had forged, every time Lauren had looked at my child like she was evidence instead of a little girl. Then I looked at the deed in the folder on the counter. "Yes," I said, "it is really ours." A few weeks later, Travis saw me at the county courthouse after a hearing on the civil case. He looked thinner, angry, and ordinary in a way I had never noticed before. Without his truck, his crew, his lies, and my family's confusion protecting him, he was just a man in a cheap suit who had mistaken kindness for weakness. He did not speak to me. But as he passed, I heard Ron tell him the settlement would be cheaper than trial. The number was $62,000, including unpaid restitution, attorney fees, and damages for the fraudulent filing. Travis cursed under his breath. I kept walking. By then, I had learned something that changed me. Some people do not attack you because you have nothing. They attack you because they see something you have not fully claimed yet. A home, a boundary, a name, a future, a daughter who watches how you let the world treat you. For years, I thought being quiet made me good. Now I know quiet only matters when it is a choice, not a cage. Lauren and I are not what we were. Maybe we never will be. She comes by sometimes to pick up Sophie for ice cream, and there is still a carefulness between us, a space where trust used to sit easily. I do not rush to fill it. She does not ask me to. My parents learned something too. My mother apologized for doubting me, and I believe she meant it. My father still blames himself for hiring Travis, but I remind him he gave me land, not trouble. Travis brought the trouble. I brought the truth. The final inspection passed on a cold, clear morning. Renee came herself. She checked the outlets, the smoke detectors, the rail by the porch steps, and the little brass number beside the door. Then she smiled and said, "You are good to go." After she left, I stood alone in the doorway with the certificate of occupancy in my hand. The cottage was not big. 2 bedrooms, 1 bath, small kitchen, narrow hallway. But to me, it felt like a mansion, because every inch had been fought for. Across the yard, Lauren was helping Sophie plant tulip bulbs near the walkway. My mother was on the back steps with coffee. My father was pretending not to watch me cry. I thought about the first cruel sentence Lauren had thrown at me, the one meant to reduce my whole life to shame. A little pity house. I looked at the signed deed, the occupancy certificate, and the sunlight hitting Sophie's bedroom window. Then I whispered to myself, "No, this is not a pity house." It was the place where everyone finally learned I was never the helpless woman they thought they were rescuing. I was the owner. And this time my name was on the paper because I put it there. What would you do in this situation? Be honest. Or did this remind you of someone? Tell me in the comments. And if this made you think about your own relationship, I left something in the description that can help you build something stronger. Subscribe if you want more stories like this every day, and share this with someone who needs to hear this story.